Hi everyone, I'm Shawn DuBravac, the Chief Economist for the Consumer Technology Association. We're here at the 2016 CES, and we're talking with David Mack of Lyft.
Yes, sir.
Very disruptive ride-sharing platform. David, thanks for joining us here on the stage.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So 2 years ago, I'm in San Francisco, and I see this car come by with a big pink mustache, and I thought, what is that? And then a few minutes later, another road, different part of San Francisco, I see the same thing happen. It was only after that moment that I find out it was a Lyft car. I start to learn a little bit more about where have you guys come from? It's 2 years, very disruptive over that short period of time. Tell us a little bit about the origins and where you are now.
Well, Lyft originally started as a sharing opportunity, a way for people to more efficiently get around. John Zimmer, Logan, they came from different places, but they all came from transportation policy. They wanted to see how could we more efficiently use the vehicles that we have, how could we more efficiently use the roads that we have, all of this infrastructure and investment that we've done. It was a very old idea, something that a lot of people have done before, looking at rideshare boards in college, common areas. You would going home for the holidays. You would say, I'm going this way, this is my name, let's match up, we'll carpool, we'll save some money on gas. They took that idea, with the advent of the smartphones, mushed them together, and now they brought transparency and accountability to it. And that's it. It is purely a transparency and efficiency play. So, started on college campuses with a company called Zimride, was very successful. But people taking 2 rides a year on Zimride to go home for holidays was not going to fix the transportation issues that we have. So they moved beyond Zimride to Lyft, operating in cities and doing the same thing. And if everyone's taking Lyft twice a day, now all of a sudden we're taking a major dent out of congestion. We're building more sustainable cities, and that's where it came from, and that's where it's going. And it is the idea that any individual that can qualify to drive on the platform, once they go through the background check and meet all the minimum requirements, should be able to offer rides if they want to do it. And it's going gangbusters.
So CTA recently started a Disruptive Technology Council. Lyft is one of the founding members of that Disruptive Technology Council. Why? Why join CTA and become part of CTA and part of this Disruptive Technology Council?
Yeah, it's a good question. CTA has been a leader on all kinds of policy issues for a very long time, so it makes sense. CTA helps us explain what we are and what we are not to policymakers, which is critically important. 2 years ago, there was no state legislation whatsoever that allowed for ride sharing to exist. Now, as of last week with Ohio, 2/3 of states in the United States have passed whole regulatory frameworks that allow ride sharing to work. And that doesn't happen without a lot of help from organizations like this. The need to educate policymakers never goes away. There is a tremendous amount of disinformation out there. Some people just come in, don't maybe do all the research that they need to do, and so that is why. Disruptors, that's what people are going for, but no one started out, John and Logan didn't start out to be disruptors per se. They started out to fix a specific problem with efficiency. It just so happens that along the way, we've needed to change some things so that it can thrive.
So what states are you not in today, and why not? What are these states missing?
So in the coming months, there's going to be sessions to work for a comprehensive bill in Florida, in Texas, in the state of New York. And these are big markets. We're working through Massachusetts as well. And each of them have their own characteristics. Florida is a large, geographically diverse place with lots of tourism and travel industry, which is a natural fit for services like Lyft. So we're just getting in there to make sure that people understand that Lyft is first and foremost complementary to existing forms of transportation. It does not have to be Lyft or nothing else, and so that's a lot of it, making sure people are comfortable with it. Sometimes it's just, Texas is a 2-year legislative cycle. We think that we'll continue to be successful, that 2/3 of states already have a framework in place, shows that we're in an entirely different place now than when we started 2 years ago with this process. And the more that people see it, the more that people want it. The one thing that we always have, which is a tremendous benefit, is the success and the support of constituents and drivers. Once people have the opportunity to try it, they want it, and they're willing to speak directly to their elected officials and help us communicate for why it's an improvement, why it's reducing drunk driving, why it's making it easier for them to get to and from work, why it's helping them make a little bit of extra cash, a way to doing things that they really want to do. It is really a win-win for everyone, and by and large, hopefully tide has turned, and people are now much more interested in having it than having a long, protracted conversation about it. And the good thing to see is, as we are in markets and it gets more mature now, we begin to work more with transit planning officials, cities that are looking to make them more sustainable places to live. We're doing partnerships with all kinds of transit planning organizations across the country to really embed this into the city.
So where do we go from here? Where does Lyft go from here? You continue to work with the last holdouts, the third of states that don't yet allow Lyft and don't have a comprehensive framework, and then what's next for the platform?
I think what's next is making sure that we are realizing the full potential of what Lyft is. So I was talking about transit planning earlier. For a long time, people have talked about the last mile problem. You know, we've spent billions and billions of dollars to build these beautiful infrastructure opportunities, but sometimes people can't get to them very easily. So how can we make it so that Lyft is a solution for the last mile problem? How can we make it so that we're not going to build new highways anymore? We can only build so many large slabs of asphalt, right? So how are we going to be using those more efficiently? How can people be using it to get to and from work? Can we increase the incidences of carpooling for people that are moving to and from work? Just maximizing on all those efficiencies is really the biggest opportunity moving forward. And of course, making sure that everyone who wants to participate in it can. You know, interesting, very positive news with GM just the other day. For a long time, when we were talking with policymakers that were trying to understand what this thing is and why it is not just a repeat of what is already existing in the market, we've said, you're all familiar with XM radio, for example, things of that nature. It comes in your car. You can use it if you want or not. In the future, you'll see similar things. You know, Lyft will be available for everyone. Everyone should be able to be a Lyft driver and should be qualified for it, but they don't do it all the time. So pre-installed in your car, something I want to do. I think we'll have success when my mom is a Lyft driver.
So here we are at CES. There's massive amount of innovation around us, tremendous number of disruptive technologies, some 20,000 new products launched here over 4 short days. Talk to me just a minute about disruption. How do you educate policymakers about a disruptive technology? You've done a great job of describing the Lyft platform, but how do you educate those who may be completely unfamiliar with the potential, and how do you convey the benefits of that disruption to the status quo?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, as an economist yourself, you know how important data is, and what was really lacking in the early days of the conversation was hard data. Basic facts. Yes, background checks are done. They're done by independent, accredited. That matters. Yes, there's insurance in place, and it is thorough, and it is strong, and it is there. It was getting out and making sure policymakers knew what the facts were, which is very kind of boring, prosaic stuff, but it really needed to happen, and it needed to happen very broadly, and that was also a challenge. So, you know, when you're looking at small companies, couple hundred people that are launching these markets overnight, it was, you know, we did 24 cities in 24 hours just about, you know, a year and a half ago at this time. It was going at that breakneck pace, so policymakers would wake up overnight and this would be there, and they wouldn't necessarily know everything about it, and they would hear some from us. We were doing our best, but they would hear a lot from others, some who didn't want us to be in those places, and there was a significant amount of misinformation. So getting basic facts out was rule number 1, and rule number 2 has actually been working with economists to say, okay, can we quantify this? What does it look? What are the impacts? We recently pushed our 2015 economic impact study. The top line from that was the availability of Lyft in our top markets has allowed $250 million in additional spending to go into local businesses. So that means people would stay for an extra glass of wine because they don't have to drive. Nothing wrong with that. People would be able to go out and shop in local small businesses a lot more easy. So it's a catalyst. It makes it much more fluid for transactions to take place. And when we can show policymakers that, it's good. The third bit that's really helped is, again, getting back to transit. You know, we know that 50% of our rides in San Francisco right now are starting at a fixed transit point. So when you can go and say, look, this is helping people utilize public transit, this is keeping people safe, all of a sudden it starts to click together and they say, as long as you've done everything that you need to do on trust and safety and you make sure the vehicles are safe, then let's get this thing out there and rolling. And that's it. And so I think we've really matured that conversation. The Disruptors group is going to help us do that as well and continue to go out there. And I think what disruptors will really be able to do, hopefully, is just carry that education forward, because it is necessary and it is all over the place, and we just don't have the resources to do it ourselves. We need help.
It's fascinating to talk to a company like Lyft, to see not only how disruptive they've been over a very short period of time, but also to see how they really are a catalyst for what an economist might call positive externalities, that they produce so many
It's a fancy word. I like that.
so many good things in other parts of the economy, both from a user standpoint, from a utility standpoint, but then also commerce is taking place because of some of those things. Any great success stories you'd want to share, whether from drivers or from riders that you've heard, that really convey the essence of what Lyft can mean in a community?
Yeah, I think going back to the economic impact study, there are all kinds of things that we never anticipated or could have anticipated, right? It was started as an idea to more efficiently use rides. No one ever knew that it would lead towards $250 million of extra spending in local small businesses. I think that's the key takeaway. When we got the numbers back, we all kind of sat down and said, that's pretty fantastic, and that's just the beginning. We'll be coming out with the second set of data in March, so we'll be sure to pass some of that along to you. But I think that's it. It is fundamentally that people are using it in ways that we never anticipated. When we do survey people and we talk, why are you doing this? Why are you driving? We find that 86% of the people that are driving are fully employed. They have full-time jobs. They're doing this for extra cash flow on the side. Another part of them are doing this while they're on their way to the next job. So it's cash flow while they're looking for the career and the job of their choice. When you talk, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to take any rides here at CES, but when you're talking to the drivers here, and you should say, why are you doing this? They love it, the flexibility. Most of them have jobs. They're working in the entertainment industry here, but they got a couple extra hours to burn. They're out there servicing, and they love it. They're having a great time. There's still some refinements that I think we need to work to get through here, but I know I was happy to get off the plane and not have to stand in that line for years. It's changed a lot.
Yeah, it's awesome to see companies like Lyft disrupt the environment so quickly, but then also improve the environment so quickly. You talk about the long lines here in Las Vegas during CES. It's awesome to see Lyft disrupt that and improve our daily lives, improve the interactions that we have with individuals. I'm here talking with David Mack of Lyft. So when you leave CES, you're leaving, headed back to your hotel, headed to the airport. When you get home and you need a ride home, try Lyft out for the first time, see how it might change your life. David, thanks very much for joining us here at CES.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.